I have a very small quibble today. I'm going to pick a nit. In general, I think it's best to avoid the nits in life, to just go on and forget about them. But this time I'm stopping to pick. It's like having a tiny stone in your shoe. I should ignore it, but today I'm going to stop and, if not remove it, at least object to it. It's a quote. And like that tiny stone, I encounter it periodically, and I don't agree with it. Never have, or more properly, it doesn't agree with me. Yet whenever it is said or written, it's a knockout punch. The room is cleared, the argument is over, the wind is stilled. It's a jaw-dropper of a quote that leaves people speechless. It's attributed to a man named George Santayana, who is identified as being a philosopher and a man of letters, meaning, I think, that he was a writer. An individual who can make a living, pay the bills, by being a philosopher is someone who can say things that have great impact, that project tremendous wisdom and insight, that other people encounter and thoroughly admire, turning a phrase over and over like it's a precious jewel, having immense value. George Santayana was one of those people. He left behind a small forest of pithy quotes, and among them is the one that irks me. No doubt you are familiar with it. Here it is. Those who do not remember the past are condemned to repeat it. I'll admit, as quotes go, it's a real bell ringer, but I also think it's a puffball. It's a mental gummy bear. Let's take it out of my shoe and have a look at it, okay? Those who do not remember the past. Okay, that certainly would not include George Santayana. He's all about the past and remembering it. He's a student of history and a philosopher. He's probably a philosopher, a wise man, because he's a student of history, someone who specializes in remembering the past. And according to George, the value of remembering the past is that you would not be, unlike those ignorant oafs who don't remember, condemned to repeat it. So if you are wise, because you remember the past, and you don't repeat it, then just exactly what are you doing? Are you getting it right? The implication is that the past is one great big boneyard of error, and if you remember it, you won't fall into the same traps. So what are you going to do? Are you going to fall into new traps? Make mistakes that have never been made before? Not in the entire recorded history of the world? It's either that, or you're going to be the one who finally gets it right. That's what the quote would lead you to believe. My remembrance of things past, as well as my day-to-day experience, leads me to believe otherwise. The past may be a very good guide, but it's not something we improve on. We are not going forward. We are on a wheel. You can call it the Great Mandela or a hamster wheel, and we go round and round. We make the same mistakes the Greeks made, the Romans, the Aztecs, the Cherokee, the Mongols, Turks, Phoenicians, Egyptians, all of them. Everybody. Nobody ever got it right, and nobody ever will. If someone is out there making new mistakes or finally getting it right, let me know. I'll stand corrected. George possibly thought that, being a student of history, and therefore a philosopher, he knew better. But being a philosopher and a man of letters meant that George lived in the world of the ivory tower. His beliefs did not have to be tested on the anvil of the day, which, let me tell you, tends to beat the ever-loving shit out of most pearls of wisdom. He was above, or at least removed, from the fray. That awful fray, the world of loose ends in which most of us live, that fray of the present, in which we make choices that have upsides and downsides, just like all the decisions that have been made before. The fray is inescapable, unless you are like George, and you can say or write things which sound impressive, but do not have any meaning at all in the fray. The real world, where we are all condemned, as it were, to repeat the errors of our predecessors. We might even be condemned to share in some of their victories, too, for surely, amid the myriad mistakes that have had disastrous consequences. There must have been a few nails driven in straight. They must have acted wisely once or twice, even if it was in a trivial manner. Being a philosopher, George Santayana had many fine quotes. He was a regular quote machine, and I'll close with another, which I more or less agree with, especially when I leave out one word. So here it is, amended by me. I nearly agree with it, which is to say it almost agrees with me. History is a pack of lies about events which did happen, told by people who were not there. Something the students of history, like George, might keep in mind.